All right, Raider Nation, let's talk draft today because there's a lot going on with the draft and the Raiders have the number 6 overall pick. So who are we going to go after, and is it going to be a quarterback or is it going to be a different position? We're going to get into all of that and more and what is happening post-combine and all of the combine workouts, not workouts, as well as interviews. All right, guys, let's get into it. But before we do, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. You know what to do. Drop your comments down below. Show your support to the Raider D podcast. Appreciate each and every single one of you. And if you want to get this hat, it is in the shopping cart. If you don't see the shopping cart and you're on your phone, just click the video and it should pop up the shopping cart. If you don't see that, just click down into the description and you should be able to find it there. I'll list it as well as a bunch of different variants because I keep getting asked where to buy this hat. All right, guys, let's talk about Shaduer Sanders. Now, we know that Shaduer Sanders is high on the draft board for the Las Vegas Raiders. As far as Mark Davis and Tom Brady are concerned, we don't really know exactly how John Spytek and Pete Carroll feel about a Shaduer Sanders and whether or not they are as big of believers in him as the ownership is, and whether or not he'll even be there for the Raiders to draft. However, according to an article that I just read, Shaduer Sanders apparently tanked at least 2 of his interviews with teams that are in the top 10. The report coming out says that they seen him as being too brash, arrogant, not seeming to care about their organizations, and clearly not interested in playing football with them. Now, this could just be Shaduer Sanders doing what his dad said would be done, which is there are a couple of teams that he will not allow his son to go to, and I'm sure Shedeur doesn't want to go to, and that's a pretty obvious organizations like the Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans. Now, Shaduer Sanders has showed nothing but interest in wanting to come to the Raiders, and he has also showed interest in wanting to play for the New York Giants. And both of these teams need a quarterback, and we are both going to be in the hunt for him. So I think that what this is right now, if this report is true, and again, I can't verify it because it's just one analyst saying this, one insider, not me. I think if this is true, I think Shedeur is just being a smart business person. Because let's be honest, as much as us fans want this game to be just about the game and to be pure football, it is a business. There are billionaires who own these teams, and there are multimillionaires who play for these teams. And so if you're trying to make sure that you go to the best organization, even though you're in the top 10 as a draft prospect, as a quarterback, you kind of got to make sure that you don't end up with a team that has no chance of winning whatsoever, like the Cleveland Browns or the Tennessee Titans. So I don't fault this young man for being strategic and just making sure, because listen, the Giants have made it very clear that they're interested in Shaduer Sanders, and the Raiders have made it clear prior to John Spytek and Pete Carroll being hired that they were interested in Shaduer Sanders, and that one of these two teams are definitely going to draft him in the top 10. So for me, if I was Shaduer Sanders, would I do the same thing? I don't know. Probably. If I knew for sure that I was going to get drafted anyway in the top 10, and I was going to get that bonus money, I was going to get, go to a team that I believe has a shot at winning, that's what I'm going to do. Now, obviously, the New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders have not won for a few years. However, both teams are making moves to try and fix the problem. Whereas when you look at the Tennessee Titans and you look at the Cleveland Browns, you're like, they haven't really done anything to really make sure that you're going to win. And listen, I love my Raiders fans out there in Cleveland. I know there are Raiders fans out there. But you have to admit, it's not an appealing place to want to go and live. And so the same thing with the Titans. I mean, who wants to live in Tennessee? I'm sure there's a lot of people who do, but if you're a multimillionaire, you probably want to go to a place, especially when you're as brass as a kid like Shedeur, you probably want to go to a place where there's a lot more glitz and glamour, like the Raiders, like New York. So it just makes sense to me. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below and how you feel about Shaduer Sanders possibly tanking a couple of his interviews to ensure that he goes where he wants to go. Now let's also talk about the running back situation in Ashton Jeanty, who met with the Raiders and was on record saying that he'd like to play for the Raiders, as well as TreVeyon Henderson, a guy who played for the Buckeyes with Chip Kelly, a dude who is absolutely explosive, super fast, does not get caught from behind. Unlike, as much as I loved Josh Jacobs, he would break tackles like crazy, but he's not often going to get that home run for you because he wasn't fast enough, and he would often get caught up from behind by very fast cornerbacks. When you look at TreVeyon Henderson, this dude doesn't get caught from behind. When you look at Ashton Jeanty, this dude doesn't often get caught from behind. So either one of these guys coming to the Raiders is going to make a lot of sense, because we need a guy who can break it and hit that home run for us and get that big touchdown, that 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown. We haven't had a guy like that for a long time, and it's time that the Raiders get back to that. Now, we're going to talk about TreVeyon Henderson, some of the downsides with him, because really when you're looking at Ashton Jeanty, there's no downsides, right? Let's just be honest. He doesn't have any flaws in his game. The dude is about as perfect as you can get as a running back that I've ever seen come out of the draft. But let's talk about TreVeyon Henderson, because he does have a bit of a downside. And you know what? One of the downsides, while we're talking about downsides, you see my solar array behind me here. It is laying flat on my blocks right now. It is not upright, where it would generate more power if it were so. But if you guys missed it, we had a massive storm out here, 40, 50, 60 mile an hour wind gusts for like 12 straight hours. It was miserable. Don't really get those too much out here. It's the first one I've experienced that lasted for that long. And it destroyed my structure that I had built for my Vtoman 400 watt solar panels that go to my Vtoman 1800 jump 1800 solar generator that helps to power the ranch. And so it is still laying flat. And even though it's still laying flat, it is still kicking right now currently, even at cloudy conditions. I just checked it before I started this video. It is still pumping out over 650 watts. Now that's 800 watts right there. It's kicking out 650 watts, and it's laying flat. It's not even angled. It's wintertime. It should be angled like this in order to capture more rays. That's how good these things are. When you look at a portable solar solution, you're not going to get anything better than what I'm getting with Vtoman, especially for the price. Guys, the link is down in the description. You got to go check them out. They are a sponsor of the channel, but I absolutely love them. I would be telling you about them even if they weren't a sponsor. So thank you, Vtoman, for sponsoring this video. Now, listen, let's talk about TreVeyon Henderson. The dude is super fast. He ran for over 1,000 yards, over 10 touchdowns, not a single fumble. He has like 667, I think, carries without a single fumble. So ball security, not a problem with TreVeyon Henderson. If you draft him, you probably will have to trade back up into the first round. And here's a scenario where you could draft Tet McMillan, who had a great interview with the Raiders. Jeanty had a great interview. McMillan had a great interview, and TreVeyon Henderson had a great interview. Again, he has that connection with Chip Kelly. So you could draft your ex-receiver in Tet McMillan at pick number 6, who a lot of draft boards have him going to the Raiders at number 6 if Shaduer Sanders is not there. And then you could trade back up into, say, pick 20 and probably get TreVeyon Henderson. Now, if you wait until the second round, he may not be there because the dude is electrifying. There's a downside with him, though. He has had some injuries in his college career. With that being said, he doesn't really have a downside to his game. He is a north-south runner. He's not just a speed demon, but he is very hard to tackle. He has good cut, good vision. He's not as dynamic as Ashton Jeanty, and I think that if you draft Jeanty, you're going to have a superstar day one. I think if you draft TreVeyon Henderson, you're going to have a star day one. And there's a level to that. Genty, I mean, this dude is just, he's unnatural the way that he does things, right? So whoever gets him, they're going to have a superstar in their hands for years to come. I think that you still get tremendous value if you draft TreVeyon Henderson because of the fact that he has that home run ability. You could then go out and draft another running back in the second round, maybe the third round, and now you have a dynamic duo. You have some depth there at running back, which right now we really don't have. Alexander Madison, free agent, probably not bringing him back, and it's unlikely that any of the running backs that we have on the squad right now are really going to be able to be that guy. TreVeyon Henderson could be that guy day one, no doubt. So I think it is kind of tending towards that draft Tet McMillan right now. Shaduer Sanders is not there because I think the Giants will take him. And then you draft TreVeyon Henderson. You might have to trade back up in for him. Maybe it costs you one of your third round draft picks and you can move back in. So let's see what happens with that. I'm very excited for the draft. I'm very excited for the free agency. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below. I appreciate each and every single one of you being here. Let's go Raiders! Salute, nation.